Howdy, everyone. I'm Julie Howe, and I'm going to talk about the Texas Climate Smart Initiative. Texas Climate Smart Initiative is a grant that was funded to the Texas A&M AgriLife Research for $65 million from the United States Department of Agriculture Natural Resource Conservation Service. And in this grant, it includes nearly $40 million in commodity producer incentives for the next 3 to 4 years to adopt climate smart practices. And this project is funded in partnership with the Texas State Soil and Water Conservation Board, the Texas A&M Forest Service, Prairie View A&M University, University of Texas Rio Grande Valley, Charleston State University, and 2 carbon crediting organizations, B Carbon and NORI. So all of the climate smart commodity programs have 3 basic objectives. 1, to incentivize commodity producers on working lands to adopt NRCS recommended climate smart practices. I'm going to call that the adopt objective. Then the next objective is to measure, monitor, report, and verify these climate smart benefits. That's MMRV. And then the third objective is to develop markets and promote climate smart commodities. That's Econ. So the main purpose of climate smart practices are to store carbon in the soil and reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And this is to help mitigate climate change. But this is not the only benefit of the program. The program, the storage of carbon in the soil really improves soil and prevents it from being treated like dirt. I'm a soil scientist, so I really don't like soil to be treated like dirt. It's really a precious resource, and it is really important in helping you maintain sustainable operations. Adding soil organic carbon can improve resilience to weather extremes such as drought and flood. And more tolerant to heat and cold. It can reduce fertilizer, fuel, and pesticide inputs. And all of this can increase your producer profitability and protect the environment from excess nutrient and chemical usage. So this is soil organic carbon, though sometimes takes some time to build up, and we understand that sometimes practices are not immediately cost effective in the short run. So that's the purpose of the program, is to incentivize you to adopt it with a very low stakes opportunity to test this out on your land, see how it works for you, and see how we can get more people adopting climate smart practices. So as I mentioned, we have all these incentives. We are not, this project in Texas Climate Smart Initiative is not really focused on a single commodity. We're a multi-commodity. So we're looking for pretty much anything: row crop, vegetables, orchard operations, grazing, pasture, CAFOs, small acreage forest. These are the commodity groups that we're looking for. And when you apply, you're really expressing your interest in the program, not enrolling in the program. At this point, we'll work with you about a climate smart management plan using the practices I'm going to talk about in the next page. And this will allow you to talk and say what you think, as well as what we think, to make a good plan that's useful for the next several years, hopefully to benefit your operation. So some of the practices we're looking at, we have some forestry practices, pasture, livestock, combined animal operations, row crop operations, and then we have a few edge or partial field practices that are really going to be confined to places where there's a large acreage where we can apply these. So maybe if you had 20 acres of field border that you could apply in altogether, then that might be applied. So we're focusing on these other practices, but maybe for some larger operations, the edge or partial field might be beneficial. And then the MMRV, what we're going to do with producers is we're going to measure those climate smart benefits. Soil organic carbon will only be measured twice, once at the beginning of the project and once at the end. And then greenhouse gas emissions will only be measured on select participant sites. We'll have 5 sites for continuous measurement, and then we'll use chambers to measure 4 times a year for some other selected participants. And we're looking at around 10 to 20% because there's just so many potential participants. The state is big, and it's expensive to do this. And then we'll also be looking at some remote sensing and modeling techniques to really understand climate smart benefits and maybe cheaper ways to do this in the future. Then we'll obviously monitor adoption and report the climate smart benefits back to USDA and verify a few of our measurements with a third party to make sure that we're getting good numbers. Then the econ, I'll just give you an idea of what the econ group is going to work on. They're going to try to quantify adoption and then also look at some of the federal policies and programs and how they affect the cost of adoption. We're going to develop some climate smart markets. So developing branding and marketing and supply chain tracing to see how we can figure out how we can grow the climate smart projects, get them labeled all the way through the supply chain so they get to market and identified as that climate smart benefit, and then figure out how much a consumer is willing to pay for that added value of the climate smart product and see if that can be translated into dollars into that product that could be returned back to the producer. And then we do have one component with the 2 carbon markets. This program, this is a very tiny component, but we're going to select 5 for each of the different carbon aggregators, B Carbon and Nori. They're going to select 5 case studies and various commodity groups to kind of assess how carbon markets work in Texas and whether there's some benefits for us to look at that. And then, so just to kind of recap, if you're interested in enrollment, the land must be in Texas. You must have a Farm Service agency by the time of enrollment. Practices must not already be receiving the same federal incentive for the same practice on the same land at the same time. That does not mean you cannot add practices. It does not mean you can't put practices in fields side by side or at different times. You must be willing to let us collect soil samples and greenhouse gas emission samples just as part of the project. So what's unique to our program compared to some of the others, we are multi-commodity. So if you are growing multiple crops or have different operations within one operation, this may be beneficial for you. We also are not doing annual contracts. We're doing 3 or 4 year contracts, and all of our prices are going to be at least competitive at or above the equip rates. So we're not disclosing the rates at this moment because we're trying to sort of see how many enrollments we get, but this is what we're looking at right now. And keep in mind that application is an expression of interest. If you just want to see what it might do for you, please just go ahead and apply. And if you have questions on how to do the application, we can help you with that. Here's our phone number. Here is our email address. We have a Twitter. We also have Facebook, which I think is the same handle. And then our website, climatesmarttamu.edu, is where you can find that application, or rather expression of interest. And here's a QR code if that makes it easier for you. The next slide is just a summary of all of this. So if you need to pause or want to jot it all down or take a screenshot, or we also have flyers for this as well. So please come and apply for the Texas Climate Smart Initiative. We're looking forward to working with you.